Throughout history, there have been countless unexplainable stories, events, and moments captured on audio. These horrifying tapes were archived, never to be heard again. Until now. These are the tapes of trepidation. Tape number 34, Side A, Wedding Band. I've heard the stories. Stories about the bride who plunged into a lake, clutching her new wedding ring. I've heard about the man who found the woman's corpse, bobbing just below the water's surface. Heard about how he pried the simple gold wedding band from her hands and made his way home. I've heard about how he drowned himself in his bathtub, ring on his finger. I've heard how the paramedic had to cut his finger off to get the ring off. She had to have it. I've heard about how she then drove her ambulance into the lake. I've heard about this wicked ring, this simple band of gold. Simple, yet hauntingly beautiful. The ring that loves the water, yet drives people to possess it. I just had to have that ring, even if I had to pry it off a bloated corpse's finger. I'm recording this as a warning to everyone. I'll continue in a bit. First, I think I'll go swimming. Side B, The Innkeeper's Bride. I live in a small town with a population barely over 1,000. We're hardly worth a spot on a country roads map, but we are one of the top places to visit if you're looking for a good story. Our town was founded in 1943 by a man named Richard Meeks, who later married Elizabeth Mary, who bore a male child they called Mortimer Meeks. As Mortimer grew, so did the town, eventually reaching a population well over 2,000 by the time he reached the age of 17. When he turned 18, his father passed away, leaving in his will the inn that was one of the first buildings established. It was Mortimer's duty to become an innkeeper, just as his father was. However, Mortimer had other plans. At age 24, he married Annabelle Garner, a young widow of a wealthy family. Now, this is where the story gets strange. After the marriage, Annabelle requested that they move into the old inn, because it was one of the first things she noticed when she moved into the town. Wanting to please her, Mortimer complied. They were in the inn for less than 2 weeks when something in Mortimer snapped. He became closed off, reserved, and sometimes even hostile. According to the story, it was said that Mortimer suffered from hallucinations, and he told others in the town that his wife was possessed. Eventually, customers of the inn began to disappear. They would check in, but never check out. When once questioned by the police, Mortimer claimed that they had been unclean and that she didn't want them around anymore. People then assumed he had simply run them off. But as more and more disappearances occurred, it was getting harder to ignore. Not only was it the disappearances that unnerved people, but the inn as well. What was once a beautiful 3-story wooden fortress was now beginning to decay. The wood turned to a dull, gray color, rotten and infested with termites. Vines and weeds littered the landscape and grew up the sides of the outside walls. Windows cracked as if the weight of the walls was shifting, changing. The whole inn seemed to be flooded in a darkness that sent others hiding in the comfort of their own home. 14 years after an unsteady marriage, Mortimer committed suicide, jumping off the 3rd-story staircase, down onto the stone statue of an angel in the center of the main hall. He left a note that simply read, "I can't do this anymore. She's watching me, always watching me. Don't look into her eyes. Don't look into her eyes. Don't look into her eyes." Police were baffled, but did nothing to pursue the meaning of this note. I share this now as a warning. After Mortimer's death, Annabelle was nowhere to be found. She simply up and vanished. I made no mention of the town or its location to keep you from finding us. She's watching us. She's always watching us. She's always watching you too. Don't look into her eyes. This has been tape number 34, Wedding Band and The Innkeeper's Bride, by the Tapes of Trepidation Horror Narration Podcast. Side A, Wedding Band, was written by ClericofMadness and was originally posted on the Creepypasta Wiki. Side B, The Innkeeper's Bride, was written by the Cupcake Killer and was originally posted on the Creepypasta Wiki. Narration, production, and sound design for this episode was by TJ Hodder. Credit for music for this episode can be found in the show notes. The Tapes of Trepidation theme was written by the incredible J.M. Scherf. All logos, banners, overlays, and graphic design work was provided by the talented Jason Reese from Jaybird Digital Arts. If you have a story you would like to submit or a question regarding the show, please contact us at tapesoftrepidationpodcast@gmail.com. Support the show by subscribing and leaving a rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, your favorite podcatcher, or like and subscribe on YouTube. Be sure to tell your friends. Word of mouth is extremely helpful to a new podcast like this one. Check us out on social media through the link tree in the show notes. We have Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. If you have a Discord account, come join the Discord. We have a lot of fun over there. I try to go live at least once a week, and it's definitely the funnest way to keep up with everything going on with the podcast. If you'd like to support the show a little more, consider joining the Tapes of Trepidation Patreon, where for as little as $5 a month, you can gain access to monthly bonus short story narrations, the weekly behind-the-scenes podcast within the archive in which I break down each episode do interviews and also Q&As, and more. Come join us and become trapped within the archive, just like my current patrons. Kelly Sisson, Neil Skarupa from Neurotic Voice, Doozer Pin Dan, Ronan Komori, Eric Phones, and Patrick Stewart. Thank you all so much for the support. All content used on Tapes of Trepidation is either original, used with permission, or is available under Creative Commons license. All rights reserved unless otherwise stated. This podcast and its content may not be redistributed or rebroadcasted without the express written consent of Tapes of Trepidation and the story's author. Thank you all so much for listening.